Have you ever felt that prickling sensation on the back of your neck, that feeling that you're not quite alone, even when you're the only person in the room? Tonight, we're diving into a story that will make you question every shadow, every creak in the floorboards, and every whisper you think you hear on the wind. This is the chilling tale of Meera and the apartment that never let go. Meera was ecstatic. She'd finally landed her dream job in the city and found the perfect apartment to go with it. It was a charming, pre-war building with high ceilings and big windows that flooded the space with light. The rent was a steal, almost too good to be true. On that first day, as she unpacked boxes filled with her hopes and dreams, the future felt as bright and open as her new living room. The first few nights were peaceful, filled with the comforting hum of city life and the excitement of a new beginning. She fell asleep easily, dreaming of her new life. But the city's lullaby soon turned into something far more sinister. It started subtly, a soft thud from the apartment upstairs. Just as she was drifting off to sleep, she dismissed it. Old buildings make noise, right? Then came the whispers. Faint, like a radio playing in another room, they seemed to drift through the air vents at odd hours of the night. She'd pause, straining to hear, but they would always stop the moment she focused on them. Next were the cold spots. A sudden icy draft would brush against her skin, making her shiver, even though all the windows were shut tight. She'd check the locks, run her hand along the window seals, and find nothing. It was just her imagination, she told herself. The stress of the new job, the unfamiliarity of a new place. There was a logical explanation for everything. But the logical explanations began to wear thin when the notes appeared. The first one was a small, folded piece of paper slipped under her front door. It was written in a jagged, spidery script, for simple words that sent a chill down her spine. I see you sleep. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Was it a prank? A creepy neighbor? She installed a new deadbolt and a chain lock. Her sense of security shattered. A few days later, another note appeared, this time taped to her door. Don't look up. This was no longer a prank. This was a threat. The feeling of being watched became constant, a heavy weight on her shoulders. She felt exposed, even in the privacy of her own home. She started jumping at every sound, her eyes darting towards the ceiling at the slightest creak. Desperate for answers, Meera decided to talk to her neighbors. She caught Mrs. Gable, an elderly woman who had lived in the building for decades, in the hallway. Trying to sound casual, Meera asked, "Hey, I was just wondering if you know who lives in the apartment above me. They seem to be night owls. I hear them moving around a lot." Mrs. Gable's friendly expression vanished. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a barely audible whisper. "Honey, nobody lives there. Nobody has for years. The family that was there, they just disappeared. One day they were here, the next, gone. The landlord sealed it up. Don't go near it." The old woman's eyes were wide with a fear that was contagious. Meera's blood ran cold. Disappeared, sealed up. But she heard them. She heard them every single night. That night, the noises were worse than ever. It wasn't just footsteps anymore. It was the distinct sound of drawers being pulled open and slammed shut. The slow, deliberate creak of floorboards, as if someone was pacing back and forth, directly above her bed. Then, she saw it. A shadow, long and distorted, stretched across her wall from the hallway, moving in a way that defied the light source. It wasn't her shadow. It was tall, unnaturally thin, and it seemed to writhe and twist as if in agony. Panic seized her. She huddled under her blankets, squeezing her eyes shut, praying for morning to come. But sleep was impossible. The sounds from above were an orchestra of terror, and the memory of that grotesque shadow was burned into her mind. Days turned into a sleep-deprived, paranoid blur. Meera was exhausted, living on coffee and fear. She considered breaking her lease, packing her bags, and just running away. But another part of her, a part she didn't understand, was curious. What happened in that apartment? Who were the people who disappeared? The whispers, the notes, the shadows. It was all connected to that space above her. The fear was still there, a cold knot in her stomach, but it was now tangled with a desperate need to know the truth. She felt like she was going crazy, and maybe, just maybe, seeing what was up there with her own eyes would prove it was all in her head. One evening, armed with a flashlight and a pounding heart, she made a decision. She was going upstairs. The communal hallway was dim and silent. The air grew colder with each step she took up the creaky, dusty staircase leading to the top floor. The landing was shrouded in darkness, with only a single, grimy window letting in a sliver of moonlight. There it was, the door to the apartment above hers. It looked ancient, the paint peeling, a heavy-duty padlock hanging open on a broken hasp. Mrs. Gable said it was sealed, but it wasn't. It was unlocked. Hesitantly, Meera placed her hand on the cold brass knob. She turned it. The latch clicked with a sound that seemed to echo through the entire building. The door swung inward on a silent, well-oiled hinge. A wave of musty, stagnant air washed over her. The apartment was a tomb, frozen in time. Furniture was draped in white sheets, now gray with years of accumulated dust. Thick, elaborate cobwebs stretched from corner to corner like macabre decorations. It was clear no one had lived here for a very, very long time. Yet the air was heavy, charged with an oppressive energy that made it hard to breathe. As her flashlight beam cut through the gloom, it landed on a large, ornate mirror hanging on the far wall. Dust coated its frame, but the glass was strangely clean. She stepped closer, curious to see her own reflection in this forgotten place. But the face that stared back wasn't hers. It was a pale, gaunt face with hollow, sunken eyes and a mouth stretched into a silent scream. A figure stood behind her in the reflection, but when she spun around, the room was empty. Her breath hitched. A whisper slithered out from the corners of the room, no longer faint but clear and right beside her ear. "You shouldn't be here." It was a cold, raspy voice that promised nothing but malice. A violent shudder ran through the floor beneath her feet, rattling the dusty furniture. The single light bulb in the hallway outside began to flicker erratically, plunging the room into strobing flashes of light and dark. In those flashes, she saw the hollow-eyed figure from the mirror, now standing by the door, its long, thin fingers reaching for her. She didn't scream, the sound was trapped in her throat. She just ran. She scrambled out of the room, not daring to look back, as a deafening slam echoed behind her, the door crashing shut with supernatural force. She stumbled down the stairs, her lungs burning, and fumbled with her keys, bursting into her own apartment and slamming the door, throwing every lock she had. She leaned against it, gasping for air, her body trembling uncontrollably. It was real, all of it. The whispers, the shadows, the cold. It wasn't her imagination. She was living below a place where something truly terrible had happened, a place that was still very much occupied. For a moment, a wave of relief washed over her. She was safe. She was back in her own space. It was over. She would pack in the morning, call the landlord, call the police. She didn't care. She just had to get out. That night, exhausted and traumatized, Meera finally collapsed into her bed. She pulled the covers up to her chin, trying to block out the memory of that horrifying face. The apartment was silent. Blissfully, terrifyingly silent. For the first time in weeks, there were no footsteps, no whispers, no creaks from above. She closed her eyes, telling herself it was finally over. She had trespassed, and it had scared her away. That's what it wanted. But then, she felt it. A subtle dip in the mattress beside her, as if someone had just sat down. The air grew frigid, and then, a cold, death-like brush of long skeletal fingers against her shoulder. A soft, sibilant whisper breathed directly into her ear. "You can never leave." Not really. What would you do if you were in Meera's shoes? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story and want more tales that will keep you up at night, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.